So when it comes to sustainability, the place where I typically start is one of the sort of foundational principles of the sharing economy, in my view, which is resource underutilization. So anytime that we have an underutilized resource, or whether that's individual or in a family or at the societal wide level, that is a waste. That is a less sustainable situation. What we're trying to do with the sharing economy and related efforts is keep assets in motion amongst more people, using them more efficiently, but also, whether we're looking at this in terms of production or consumption, using resources more efficiently, more sustainably. In some cases, producing less, producing fewer things, but keeping those assets in constant motion. So we can talk about what that means in terms of we need to design for durability and design for sharing and that kind of thing. But when you think about the fact that the classic case here being the car, if a car sits parked 23 hours a day, it's 95% inefficient. One very small tweak, which is keep more of those cars in motion more of the day, thereby reducing the need for everyone to have a car that's sitting there for 95% of the time. Right there, we start to whittle away at issues, whittle away at arguments for sustainability. Now, if you zoom out, sometimes I use the analogy of having like goggles, where we have goggles where we can see things like infrared. Imagine if we had goggles whereby we could see underutilization, any underutilized asset anywhere in a city. If we think about just a car, and then you think about what's in your closet, and then you think about what's in an office building, and you start realizing like our cities are littered with underutilized assets. If we could identify that underutilization and then start putting those assets into better use at a macro level, you start seeing a very real material effect on sustainability. Now, we're not at the point yet where we can do exactly what I just described, but we're on the path towards that. And so for me, when we think about sustainability, and I'm assuming we're talking about environmental sustainability here, we could be talking about financial or community and social as well, separate conversation. But when we start thinking about it from that perspective, cities start realizing they could have a material boost in their sustainability or reduction in their inefficiency of resource management almost overnight if they put some of these assets into shared use. Then the next level is to really think about, okay, and moving forward, how do we design products and services and urban infrastructure to prioritize and promote a shared use model rather than an ownership model? Some cities are starting to do that. I would say in that case, we're still pretty early in the process. But that's basically, where I start the conversation around underutilization, efficiency, and some very real, practical day-to-day examples of how, without having to actually invest money that we don't have or have technology that hasn't been invented yet, like these are all eminently solvable, actionable opportunities today, that it just requires, again, that change of mindset. One brief caveat: when it comes to climate change and particularly CO2 emissions, I think that the lion's share of the way that sharing economy can help mitigate and help a climate change strategy does relate to transportation. There is a certain piece around urban planning if we're talking about sea levels rising and things like that. But when it comes to CO2 emissions, that's where I would say the vast majority of impact in the near term can be had, really thinking about transport policy specifically.